That's okay.
Hopefully Facebook doesn't take us down.
Oh, because you're playing somebody else.
Yeah,
Because I'm what?
it's live right now.
Oh.
I have that live because
Should
I
I
don't
turn
want
it off?
Let's just put it on and find out. What do I need?
Oh, I figured.
Oh,
it
we
out.
figured it out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's upside down, but I got it on the right side of paper.
It's an interactive. You have to flip it.
Yeah.
I was having trouble with the orientation of the video.
I do put out thistle. The dogs like it too.
Is it time yet? It's time.
And there's also a lady.
About 7 of them are regular.
Yeah.
About 7 have kind of faded as a heat thing.
Yeah.
Like all the grackles go up to the pot with shading a
Yeah.
lot more.
We got your cages on order.
Oh, wonderful.
So, 10 days? That's a Gretchen decision, but we'll just put your name on them and we'll call you.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm excited.
They would all go, you could see like as soon as it started, the sun started, the young ones would go up in the trees, it would be like bird happy hour.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like that.
And then I think maybe they must have camped out over there, and then like 3:30 in the morning you could start hearing it. And so I don't hear that anymore. So I don't know if they move around, different groups. They decided I'm going somewhere else. I don't know.
They like behind these parks. What I've seen before is they like these shady parks that are well low and a lot of
No, 2 minutes.
Yeah. And I know that they come. I've got 2 bird baths, and I have to. Yeah. And I have to fill them up multiple times a day so you can see all the birds coming through. Which is good.
Yeah, my head is so weird, kind of tall. I know. Well, my head is like, that's always worried.
Okay, we're going to get started. So the birds we're going to talk about today are urban birds, and they're the birds that are stuck in the middle with us. That's why I picked that song, for whatever reason or another. So have you ever wondered who moves into the neighborhood? So when they start a new development. So that's what we're going to talk about. So birds, as adaptable as they are, do not always want to live with humans. I can't blame them. Nor do they always benefit from sharing space with humans. So we're going to take a look at who benefits and why they make the decisions that they make. So when I say urban birds, what birds do you think of?
doves, pigeons.
Pigeons, starlings, grackles,
Finches,
sparrows,
sparrows,
quail.
rosy, the lovebirds.
Okay, so they are on the list.
Occasional hawks, but not, the occasional juvenile hawk. The big hawks have got their territory, but we'll have juvenile hawks chasing the pigeons in my yard because they know where they're going to land.
Yeah. So a Cooper's hawk actually is an urban bird. It's in that category. It has adapted. We are not going to talk about rock doves today. Okay? So if you want to talk about, that's AKA pigeon, if you want to talk about them, you got to come in August because that's our conversation in August, all right? Yeah. So I am going to present to you all the urban birds except for that one. Okay, so I'm going to try, because I don't want to give away my secrets too soon. All right. So let's go to the next slide. Let's go to this slide. Will I do that? Okay, that's up there. So we're going to talk about cities, towns, suburbs, and the urban trait syndrome. Come on. Hang on. Here we go. Sorry, I got to read it. So 83% of people are crammed into urban areas. That makes up only 3% of the nation's land use. Since 1970, 3 billion birds have been lost. That's a study that came out in 2023 with Cornell Labs. 1/5 of all the bird species occur in cities. So think about that. 1/5 of all the birds are living with us in some sort of capacity. These birds are dealing with the same human-generated stresses, noise, sensory overload that we experience. Some bird species are changing in surprising ways to adapt to urban life, and these adaptations have been labeled by researchers as urban trait syndrome. It's fascinating. All right, I'll make sure. Okay, I'm doing it right. So what do urban birds live with? Well, they live with the same things that we live with. So this is kind of a depressing list, actually. So noisy environments, pollution from heavy metals, which is affecting their color, fewer trees and green spaces, faster developments, heat islands, window collisions, vehicle collisions, cats, dangers in trash, such as, plastic bags or dental floss or, things that they pick up and they get tangled in. Less water and unclean water. All right. So the characteristics of urban trait syndrome. The birds tend to be smaller in size by 5%. Smaller cardinals and wrens. So this actually, they haven't decided that all birds are, but the study, Cornell Labs did a study actually in the United States, so here, and determined that cardinals and house wrens, when they're talking about them, are smaller by 5% in urban areas. So that's a generalization that they are applying to all birds for right now. So they got because the house wren is small, the cardinal is, a full-bodied bird. So looking at those, probably because they're easily to identify and they're plentiful. So that's why they made those determinations. So you can take those two sizes and they're 5% smaller. They can work out the math equation and apply it overall. So they eat a wider variety of foods, and some birds lay fewer eggs, but more often, and then some birds lay more eggs. Okay, so a bird that would lay fewer eggs more often would be the house finch. A bird that would lay more eggs would be the great blue heron, because that's an urban bird. So, like instead of laying, their clutches could have been large to begin with, they might lay out in the wild maybe 6 to 8, but in urban areas they might lay 10 to 12. They forage over smaller areas. They are less territorial, more flexible in their behavior and what they can tolerate, and they're more social. Totally very interesting. House finches, if you went out and hung out in, house finches like out in Boyce Thompson, okay? They are definitely not hanging out in large groups. They are ones and twos because they're territorial. They have the space out there to be territorial. But in our backyards, they don't have the space. So they have adapted to the space by tolerating others and becoming more social because it's a survival tactic for them as well. More observational learning. So this is fascinating how bird brains work because they are, let's take house finches for an example. Because they're living in a large group, they're learning from each other because birds learn generally observationally by watching other birds do stupid things and then, oh, I'm not going to do that because that wasn't, that bird didn't live, or that bird, got sick on eating that. And that's how they process their, what they're exposed to in their environment. And so there's more of that going on. So every batch, every clutch is a generation. So parents of the house finches, again, let's say they're first-time parents, and they have 3 babies, 1 survives, all right? Just as an example. The second time they do it, because they're going to stay together for a whole season, the second clutch, they might lay 3 eggs again, but 2 survive. Why? Because they learned from the first time. And then by the 3rd time, they have all 3. So in 1 season, they have successfully raised 5 house finches. But that's how generations work in smaller birds. In big birds like eagles, where it takes them so long to get to sexual maturity, and then it takes longer for their babies to fledge, their generations are slower. So actually larger birds are having a harder time in general, like larger raptors are having a harder time adjusting to the changes that we're making. And it's not because they can't adjust. It's just because it takes so long for them to take the information that they learned from, 2024 and apply it to 2025 and then 2026. And migrating birds are really hurting because the environment that they left. So this year, when they go to South America, down into Mexico, and they leave here, and then they come back, they might not have the same landscape because we're changing it so fast. And that's not a negative or a positive, that's just reality. So, they could be, desert birds, and then they come back to the desert where they successfully raised young, and there's a data center, just as an example. And they're like, they say like, WTF, what's going on? So they have to, they have to adjust. And so it's how they adjust. And again, they're here for such a short time that they can't necessarily generate the successful changes, because we don't know if migrating birds are actually producing 2 clutches or if they're just managing to produce 1 clutch in a season. So some species have evolved to have smaller eyes. Smaller eyes are better for dealing with bright lights. Again, they discovered this with cardinals and house wrens. So not only, obviously if the bird is getting smaller in size, it's got to have smaller eyes to begin with. But being smaller means that they're more aerodynamic. So they can move through whatever we've stuck up out there. Louder vocalizing and on a higher frequency. So birds generally, as a rule, sing and vocalize on the same sort of frequencies that our noise is on, whether it's road noise or radios or whatever. So they have developed not only to be louder. I don't know if you've ever listened to house sparrows, but they can really make noise or song or whatever you want to look at. They can get really loud. And they're also trying to vocalize on a higher frequency because they need to be heard. Because how do they communicate? How do they have mates? We all talk about the mockingbirds and how that male is just singing his heart out all day long, and he's at the top of the highest tree, and he is singing and singing and singing. Not only is he have to sing louder, but he's got to project it on a higher frequency so that it goes out into the world and hits that one female that he's looking for. And that's something that they have adapted to do, and they're adapting to do. Faster and shorter songs to be heard over human-caused noise. So those birds that live with us, so cardinals and mockingbirds and the little house sparrows, they're singing faster. Why? Because they got to sing between the intervals of the cars going down the street. So they got to not only sing faster, and they got to sing shorter because they're not as dumb as we think they are, and they're understanding the time frame that they have to get their communications out. All right. So I read a book to prepare for this talk. It's the second time I read it. I read a book, it's called Welcome to Suburbia. It's by John Maslow, and he is a wildlife scientist and a researcher and a professor in Seattle, Washington. And you guys might know him because he's really famous with doing research with crows. And he is the one who put the research out there that says crows recognize human faces, where he had students that walked around campus with masks on, an ugly, mean-looking mask and a happy mask, and they recognized the faces of the masks, and then when a mean masked student, these are grad students, did something nice, and then a nice masked student would do something mean, the birds recognized not only the mask or the faces, but they recognized who was doing the bad behavior. So crows recognize good people and bad people. And he actually did that on his campus. Yeah, Maslow. So it's Marzluff. You're welcome. So I mentioned him because he did a study in Seattle, Washington, in the suburbs and urban areas of Seattle. And he came up with these terms and the ideas that I'm going to present. So I want to give him credit for that. But I took the information, and since we're not in Seattle, it's like, North Pole and South Pole, as far as what's happening, because the Southwest is so unique. And I took what he said, and I applied it here. So I picked the birds that I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to give him credit for that, but I'll give him credit for coming up with the definitions and how I determined who was there. It's a good book. It's very scientific. It's kind of a fun read, and you don't have to read all of it to get the gist of it. I don't know how many people are readers, but yeah, it's worth a browse. So which birds adapt to living with us? So those that live with us, he has labeled exploiters. Well, that live with us, there's birds that live with us, there's exploiters, adapters, and avoiders. So we're going to talk about exploiters first, because those are probably the ones that we're most familiar with, and we named them. So exploiters are species that thrive in our presence, often co-evolving with humans and rarely occurring where people do not exist. Northern mockingbirds, barn owls, barn swallows, mallard ducks, Canada geese, house finches, house wrens, house sparrows, European starlings, peach/rosy-faced lovebirds, and rock doves. These birds move in when other birds move out due to human activity. A few of these birds humans are responsible for introducing into human areas. Each species soars in abundance as soon as clearing begins and increases over time until the area becomes less of what they want. So we have the northern mockingbird, we have the barn owl, and I was surprised about the barn swallow, but I guess because it roosts with buildings, of course, that, makes sense. Barn owl, same thing, has really exploited what we've provided. And the mockingbird, I was a little surprised about that, but they're very smart. They're mimickers. They really are good manipulators of their environment, and they are actually the first songbird that will move into a new developed area. And they will take it for all it's got. So I have got mockingbirds all over my neighborhood. We're going to focus on, and the birds that I mentioned that were human introduced, just think about it. The peach-faced lovebird, okay, that was human introduced. The rock dove, that was humans introduced it. It's not native to North America. The European starling and the house sparrow. I mean, we released them here, and they have, for the most part, thrived. But they couldn't have done it without us. So we're interlinked.
What is the bird on the bottom?
A barn swallow.
Oh, the blue one.
Yeah, I know. Striking. That's actually why I picked it, because I didn't know how many people actually know what a barn swallow looked like.
I didn't. Nope.
My brother lives in Houston, Texas, and I get text messages every spring because he gets barn swallows that nest above his sliding glass door on his apartment patio, and he gets so mad at them. So I'm always getting these pictures of bird poop and bird stuff because he says, I tell him it's illegal. You can't do anything about it. You should have done something before they got there. But now they got eggs, they got babies, you got to leave them there. So anyway, so that's how I'm sorry?
Just send them bird food.
They're insect eaters. But anyway, that's how,
Well, that's,
Sounds good.
yeah. But I won't visit him if he hurts the birds. He likes me, actually. So we're going to talk about the lovebird, okay? One of our favorites. Its real true name is rosy-faced lovebird. I put Peach up there so that everyone knew who I was talking about, but Rosie is So it's a product of a combination of illegal releases and escapes from 1980 to 1982. I scoured the internet. I found so many different stories. I just said, okay, I can't pick one. It's not nobody really knows, except that at that time it was a very popular domesticated hand-raised bird, and several things happened, and we ended up with, there was a collision, a monsoon aviary collapse, and then there was some sort of collision that released so many birds. So it wasn't like they were released in 500s. Excuse me. They were released in like 12s and 15s. And then people decided they didn't want to take care of anymore, so they were releasing their lovebirds because they have to live in pairs. You can't have one lovebird. So they're very, very social that way. So they colonized very quickly. Well, they're a parrot, so they're smart, smarter than the average bird, and they are very social. So they got together and they colonized very quickly, and it's adapted to staying close to urban development. Original habitat is dry wooded countryside in southwestern Africa with river canyons and rocky terrain. So this is a bit arid for them. So they choose microsites in the heat. So some customers will come in and say, my lovebirds are gone. Well, then we have to have a conversation about what your neighborhood's like. Maybe you're a winter place for them and they have moved to a summer place. They choose areas cooler than the surrounding habitat because Or maybe in the summer you're in a heat island, like certain areas of Tempe, I don't know, Phoenix might be more of a heat island and they have to move out. They feed on many native fruits, seeds, as well as backyard bird feeders. And I'm sure when they first started to colonize, they were hanging out at bird feeders. I mean, more than not.
Were they only released here, or?
Okay, so there is a population in Hawaii. So the only two, and they're not feral anymore, but I'll get to that. There's two populations that Cornell Labs counts. The population in Hawaii and the population in Phoenix, Arizona. So they're established populations. As long as we keep feeding them, they'll be here. If we stop feeding them, I'm sure that their numbers would, because I think our supplement or feeding of them is very much part of their success story.
We started with one pair, and then it was 2 pairs, and then it was 10 pairs. And now we get baby birds brought by their parents to the backyard feeders in my house every year.
That's pretty cool.
Well, they're really cute little baby birds. Feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. Parents, food's there, food's there.
We brought you to the restaurant, yeah.
But, it only took like 4 years before we went from a pair to a flock.
Well, they do, yeah, because they do have 5. So they do have fairly large clutches. And when they first were released and successfully breeding, they had no natural predators. Okay, no, I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right. So how did these birds adapt? Oh, by the way, I have to let you know that Kevin, these are all Kevin's pictures. So all the lovebird pictures you're seeing are Kevin's pictures. Yes, because I don't have lovebirds in my yard.
You don't? How
No.
did you miss it?
I don't know. Right now I have more towhees than I trip over them. I have more towhees than I know what to do with. So, but that's I'm getting ahead of myself again. So they found well-established neighborhoods with tall shade trees. Shade trees, palms, and shrubs. Fountains, irrigation, sprinklers, HVAC, condensation drips, backyard bird baths to stay cool. Yes.
In the pictures, the top one of that cage thing, I have that one, and I see some lovebirds have showed up there, but are they able to eat from it? I don't know, because there's a bunch, and they were inspecting it, and
Yeah,
they
they're
were
just
trying to eat through the glass.
they're just checking it out. So they're curious. They know the food's there. They don't want to get trapped. So they're waiting for one of their buddies to go in and come out. Observational learning, yeah. Yeah. Or the stupid one, however way you want to look at it. Or the one that is so hungry he or she is willing to do that. So I thought this was really cool because HVAC condensation. So they hang out around swamp coolers. They hang out around those window air conditioners where the cold air is blowing out of. So they have figured us out. And I'm sure if they could come in, they would come in and then they would go back out of the air conditioning. So, but that's how they have managed to navigate our hotter temperatures than where they're from. They're flexible with their food choices, cactus fruits to garden vegetables to native seeds and flowers and bird foods and bird feeders. They're a parrot. They have 400 more taste buds than the average songbird. So they love variety. They like hot spice. They like bitter. They're not afraid to put their feet and their beak on something that's juicy or sweet or however it tastes because they like it, like to eat. But I did learn that cactus flowers or the fruits, a lot of our native birds get their water from the cactus fruit. And I didn't realize that that takes certain taste buds or a certain way to digest, so that the food that they consume the fruit and they get the nutrients from the fruit go one way, and the liquid or the juices from the fruits go another way to help hydrate them. The lovebirds don't have that adaptation because they're not native here, so they weren't born with it. And then in Africa, they don't need it because their original range has water. That's where they would congregate. So they eat the cactus fruits, but they don't get all the benefits. Gila woodpecker holes for nesting, under tile roofs, palm tree fronds, any overcovered building sources. So they're cavity nesters, so they like to be in something, so they get up and under the palm tree fronds. They'll get up into underneath loose tiles, just like house sparrows will. They pick a corner of brick buildings where there's that overlap. And they had no natural predators at first. So Arizona Game and Fish considers them wild now. There's no domesticated DNA, because it's been over 30 years, in these birds. They are a wild population. And that's one thing, because they did do DNA testing in 2010. The other thing is that when they started to see natural predators, not cats, natural predators consider the lovebird prey, like the Cooper's hawk, and take it down, successfully prey on it, that made it wild. That is what they were looking for. So and they do. Cooper's hawks do, especially young ones who don't quite have it all figured out.
So, questions?
Uh-huh.
Are they considered invasive?
No. Okay, so they're not considered invasive because they haven't displaced a native species. They have managed to find a niche that's not pushing another species out. Now, if that happens, then yes, they will be. So they live in that gray area. If they start to affect native species, then they will become a negative instead of a positive. But at this point, no. They don't even count them anymore. They used to count them up until the last count I could find was in 2010. So we're the only ones that count them. I mean, really, when we do the bird counts and things like that, but they don't. And at that time, 2010, there was I think it was 2,500. And we know there's at least, double that? Maybe a little less than double that here.
Oh, I'd say double.
Yeah.
They're parrots, they're bossy, they're pugnacious, they're pushy, and they're smart.
Yeah, they're absolutely delightful. They're fun to watch.
I have a question. Is there anything you can do to get them to come to your area? Because I live on Scottsdale Ranch. I used to work in Paradise Valley, and they were everywhere at the hotel where I worked. But I never see them up where I'm at.
So where you worked, what's there that's not where you are?
Well, I have water. We have a pond in my community. There's water there. We have palm trees. They did. I don't know what's different. I mean,
Maybe they just haven't expanded.
That's why I'm saying, how can I get them to come by my way?
Well, other than holding up a sign with an arrow. In order to attract them to a bird feeder or something that we would have here, they have to be in your neighborhood. So if they were in your neighborhood, I would say put up a cranberry cylinder visually, and the other bird activity will attract them. But if you don't hear them and you haven't seen them, then
I've never seen
you have to wait for them to come to make it to you.
Yeah, that first pair that showed up in our neighborhood were nesting in a palm tree across the street, so they came to the palm tree first. I don't know where they came from, but that's where we first saw them, was flying in and out of that palm tree.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and they just showed up one spring.
We saw.
Yeah, we have lots of palm trees in my community.
Are they date palms?
Some are date and some are the big, tall, skinny ones.
We have date palms at a pool, and we've seen parrots, but I don't know if they're these. Would it be any other type of parrots?
The only other parrot is it Quaker?
The monk parrot.
The monk parrot, yeah, but I think they're further south, aren't they? Like Queen Creek and South Chandler.
Oh, they are. Yeah. So they're up to these dates.
Yeah, they like
I've seen
fruit.
nowhere else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So we're going to go to our next group. It's the adapters. So this is the largest group of birds. These birds decline when areas grow too close to forested habitats or yards become overgrown or trees too mature. These birds will continue to adapt to human changes in their habitat as long as the changes are within reason. So like the mockingbird, I think the mockingbird went from being an adapter to an exploiter. And so I actually think that the Ebert's towhee is becoming an exploiter. I mean, if you could see them in my yard, there's like, and I have more than one pair, and they have had more than one clutch this year. And I don't know why, but they're everywhere.
So
I mean,
where's your neighborhood?
the corner of Cooper and Guadalupe.
That's a mile from my house.
Yeah, they're
So
just
I must have towhees, I'll just have to look.
they're just everywhere. I have the whistle, the constant alarm whistle. It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
Do they compete with others?
No, they're actually quite pleasant with other birds, and they don't seem to mind any of the other activity. Now, other birds don't like the curve-billed thrasher. When it comes to mealworms, that silly bird wants all the mealworms. And but the Ebert's towhee, no, they're fine.
Yeah,
They don't.
They really avoid other birds. As soon as they're out of the way, they'll come back.
No, they don't. They run along the block wall.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere. So, for me, when I went through the characteristics of adapters, so Anna's hummingbird, the black-chinned hummingbird, the white-crowned sparrow, the American goldfinch, lesser goldfinch, song sparrow, rock wren, curve-billed thrasher, killdeer, yellow-rumped warbler, great blue heron, Cooper's hawk, greater roadrunner, Ebert's towhee. I said the curve-billed thrasher twice. I'm sorry. Yeah, curve-billed thrasher. So
what is this bird on the lower?
So we have the killdeer is up there on the left. You have the black-chinned hummingbird. You have the American goldfinch, and that is a Cooper's hawk staring at me.
I love the stare.
So we're all familiar with those birds. We probably have all had them in our yards. They are adapting to human presence. Now they're not exploiting it because they still like a little bit of the privacy. The curve-billed thrasher has not given up its territorial behavior. It's not, okay? That's hard-grained in it as a bird, and I don't know if he ever will. So he may actually become an avoider depending on what happens to the neighborhoods. Yes?
Yeah, I've got a question with the curve-billed thrasher. Do they chase out what's their state bird?
Cactus wrens?
Cactus wrens.
Yes, they would. They're frenemies. They
We used to have so many in our backyard in Northeast Mesa, and I haven't seen them in years.
Cactus wrens? Yes. So cactus wrens are not adapters. Not really. Did I mention them in here? No. They're an avoider. They don't, they're territorial. They're very particular about their vegetation. So they like the cholla and those sticky cactuses. They are OCD about snakes and disturbance to their nests. So they move away from the activity. And curb-billed thrashers and cactus wrens, they're territorial. So you can have a cactus wren here and a curb-billed thrasher here, you know, running the line. And the curb-billed thrasher can only handle it for so long. And then he's going to go through and tear up their nests. He doesn't kill babies or anything, but he will go after their nesting. Because cactus wrens build more than one nest. They build decoy nests. Yeah. Yeah.
So do they have like anger issues?
Yes. Very good. Yes, they do. Yes. Yes.
Your microphone is pulling the neck.
Well, that's okay. It's a camisole. I can't do anything about it. So, just the way it's
Pin it to your camisole strap.
just the way it's gonna be. All right. So, cactus wrens. They do build more than one nest. The male will build 4 to 6, sometimes up to 8. And she gets to pick the one she wants, the location. And then she does additional designs, you know, additives to it. And he'll go along, he'll pick one for him. And then the rest of them he will close off. So you can go in, but you can't go in all the way, and they're decoys. So, because snakes climb up the cactus, the cholla, and will try to go in, and it's not necessarily easy for the snake to get up there. So the snake can't get into the nest, and then the snake has to back down and get off the cactus. So how many times do you think a snake is going to do that before it moves on to something else? Yeah. So that's part of their, that's how they deal with snakes. So avoiders. Avoiders are the native bird species that are extinguished or decline over time as urbanization intensifies. So burrowing owls. They're susceptible to predation by people's pet dogs. Feral cats and loss of habitat because they're ground-dwelling owls. And that's why Wild at Heart, the raptor rehab facility in Phoenix, is constantly relocating them because they don't adapt. The human development and burrowing owls don't mix. Nightjars. Here's another one that's having the same problem. So you can see the burrowing owl is the right corner. The nightjar is that little guy down here. Right there. So the nightjar is a ground breeding bird that they lay their eggs on the ground in desert shrubbery. And right now in Eloy, that's where they come up. They come north, and that's one of their breeding grounds. And they're having trouble because there's a lot of development, going on in Eloy, and they're scraping what we look at is, that's just a vacant lot, and we don't think anything's happening there. But really, it's in the desert. It's abundantly full of like insects and snakes and rabbits and these birds that nest on the ground, sometimes underneath, sometimes out in the open. And they're scraping the desert and destroying nests and destroying the bird's habitat. So that's a bird we could lose really quickly. It flies at night catching insects, losing habitat because of scraping of the desert areas. So the green heron, it's an introvert. It just doesn't like us. It just wants to do its own thing, leave me alone. Have you ever, been at the water ranch out there? They're repairing. You sit down and you look over, out of the corner of your eye, and you see him sitting there on a branch. He looks at you, you look at him, and he's gone. He's like, yeah.
I had one at my pond in my community for about a week, they do? Do they just travel around?
Yeah, they're fishing. Well, they're probably gone because he saw you. Yeah.
Binoculars on
Yeah.
all the time?
No, that's just,
funny.
yeah.
He was fun to watch.
They're an interesting heron. They're smaller. They use tools. So
Yes, I read that.
yes, so they will use an insect to catch a fish. Yeah.
You got a lot of little fish in
Yeah. So they'll dangle an insect over the, yeah, or something. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an insect, but they will use bait.
Like they're kind of fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They really kind of fish.
And actually, that's my picture. And I was actually taking a picture at the Gilbert Water Ranch, and I was actually taking a picture of pigeons. But just when I got my camera in focus, the pigeons left. And I'm like, thank you, because that's usually what happens, or you get the back of the animal at the zoo. And and then he landed, or she landed right there. And I said, okay, you'll do. But that was like, click, and then he's off. He's like, okay, I'll give you one.
See, that was nice.
So the Scots oriole and the scarlet tanager enjoy forested areas where they consume insects on a wing. So we all know what's happening with our forested areas. So that's what it likes, and we're not. That's just the way the bird is made. And that's a scarlet tanager right there, and they actually like insects, but they like bees. So you can find them around natural beehives and things, and they catch the bee, and they beat it against the rock, until it's not buzzing anymore, and then they pull the stinger off, and then they eat it. But that's a delicacy. They like bees. Then orange-crowned warbler enjoys riparian areas. So just the hairy woodpecker likes to nest in dead trees. Well, what HOA allows you to have a dead tree? So the hairy woodpecker is on that list of avoiders because he needs to be where there's a dead tree. All right. There's your orange-crowned warbler up there at the top.
Well, that's a cute one.
Yeah. So the importance of urban bird research. So it's important to know how birds are adapting or not adapting to human activity so we may better understand how we may improve our living spaces. Research shows us which birds are moving from one category to another. For an example, a bird could be an adapter until stresses of human activity pushes it to be an avoider. And we've talked about that. Or it could move from an adapter to being an exploiter, like we talked about with the northern mockingbird. So a lot depends on how a particular bird species handles what humans do to their habitat. And why else is this important? Because keeping the connection between people and birds is a great tool for conservation. And it helps us to maintain our connection to nature. So we got the song sparrow, and then of course we got the mallard duck. So I put together some bird lists. So July 10th is yesterday is when I finished this presentation. And I went to eBird, and you can actually put in the area that you're in, and you can get the top birds that were counted in that day. Okay. eBird, like Cornell Labs. So I just put in eBird's top birds for Mesa. And it just automatically gives you that day. So these are the top birds that were counted on July 10th. So Mesa is on the left, and Gilbert is on the right. So I thought it was really interesting. So we're going to compare the greater roadrunner, Gambel's quail, the vermilion flycatchers in Mesa, Gila woodpecker, curve-bill thrasher, cactus wren, great-tailed grackle, house finch, verdin, and mourning dove. And then in Gilbert, you have the great-tailed grackle, house finch, mourning dove, white-winged dove, Abert's towhee, because that's my yard, curve-bill thrasher, northern mockingbird, which is also in my yard, verdin, gila woodpecker, and the mallard duck.
That matches our list.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a verdin in my yard, and I just absolutely am so thrilled with these little guys.
I love them too.
What color are the verdin in your yard?
They are, well, if they're juveniles, if they were born this year, which I've had 8 now, they're little gray birds. When they get to be adult, and right now my first set, because they do 2s, and so I had ended up having 2 sets, and they both had 2 clutches. So that gives me 8, right? Yes. Okay, 2 times 4. There's one set that's got like little red and yellow feathers popping up out of it, so it kind of looks a little spiky. And then they are yellow with a red shoulder pads. Yellow had the gray and yellow with red shoulder pads. They're tiny. They're the smallest North American songbirds, so they're really small. But what's fascinating to me is that I have a lot of native shrubbery in my yard and native plants, but the trees were planted before I got there, so I have non-native trees. And I have a Hong Kong orchid in my backyard, which is a very messy tree, and I only hate it. I hate it. I only love it certain times of the year. I usually hate it 11 months out of the year, and I only love it 1 month out of the year, seriously, because it's a lot of work. But this verdin, the verdin seems to love that tree. And so I have 2 separate sets of 2 pairs that were nesting in there. They keep moving their nest. So at first they were low and facing east when they raised their first babies. But I think I bothered them too much by taking pictures and looking at them, and that they moved to the other side of the tree and they're up higher. So I can't even see what's going on up there. Yeah, so I really do. So I just thought that's as an example about how birds are adapting. Now, it could have something to do with the weather, the wind, the sun, I don't know. But I think I was a part of it.
What kind of tree is it?
It's a Hong Kong orchid tree.
So
Yes.
what would they be in that's native?
Palo Verde's their favorite tree. And unfortunately, was it last year? It was either last year or the year before. My neighbors had a beautiful Palo Verde tree. So verdin would visit my yard. They would come to the backyard because I have a whole lot of bushes that they like, and I have a fairy duster. They like that. But they never nested there. And unfortunately, the neighbors lost the tree in some sort of monsoon storm. It's been so long, I don't remember. And I thought to myself, oh, wouldn't that be cool if they came to my yard? And they did. And be careful what you wish for, though, because this is a bird that's territorial, so it will fly at you. And I didn't realize that even though they're small, they will tweet, 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 and they will flutter above your head if you're near their house. So I don't know, they don't poke. They're not I don't see them as menacing as mockingbirds. Believe me, I've had to duck and hide from mockingbirds this year. But the verdin, yeah, they're pretty cool. But I ended up with both.
Does the verdin ever come to any feeders or not?
No, they are insect and nectar eaters.
Right.
So what they do is they're really clever. They take a nectar flower and they'll pinch it, and then they'll pinch the end of the flower and they'll pull what is that called, the pedestal, whatever pulls it, and then they lick the nectar off of that. That's how they pull it that way. Kind of like when you were kids. I don't know if you ever ate honeysuckle, yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, they love like cake with honeysuckle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a bush like that. They're in that. Yeah, whatever hummingbirds like, they tend to like. They like my fairy dusters. I have 2 of them. I put out a half an orange every day.
They'll eat jelly.
Yeah, they eat jelly. They have very much a sweet tooth.
I actually have one of those tweeter totter, the little tube
Uh-huh.
feeders, and they love that.
Yeah, they do like hummingbird nectar. And people complain about them being on their hummingbird feeders all the time. But I can't imagine not wanting a verdin on your hummingbird feeder. So I have to be quiet.
I've seen mine at my hummingbird feeder, but how do they get
They're not actually doing that. Hummingbirds are really messy. So they flick nectar, you know, when they pull their tongue in, they're flicking nectar, and then the sugar dries. So they're actually cleaning it for you, but they're just getting the sugar.
The little edge
Yeah.
where it goes down up there.
Yes. Sometimes if the feeder is full and the nectar is colder than what's outside of this condensate, it will leak. They're getting that. Yeah. 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 Right. Right. So I also did Gold Canyon because I had a request to do Gold Canyon, but she's not here. And I did the Phoenix Zoo because it's one of my favorite places to go bird watch, that in the cemetery. So Gold Canyon, as of yesterday, Gambel's quail, Gila woodpecker, cactus wren, curb-billed thrasher, verdin, Abert's towhee, Harris hawk, that was new, mourning dove, great-tailed grackle, and Anna's hummingbird. So we can see there's similarities with the birds in our valley. The Phoenix Zoo, this is actually my list off the last time I went to the zoo. So verdin, great-tailed grackle, rosy-faced lovebird, house sparrow, white-winged dove, curb-billed thrasher, cactus wren, great red-tailed hawk, Gila woodpecker, and a Lucy's warbler. So, thought that was cool. All right. So the top 3 birds that show up at Liberty Wildlife, the raptors are red-tailed hawk, Cooper's hawk, and barn owl. So it shows you the raptors that are spending time in our areas. Usually it's either the red-tailed hawk and the barn owl is usually a vehicle collision. Not 100% of the time, but generally speaking. The Cooper's hawk, they get a lot of juveniles because they make open platform nests, and those birds have to get out of the heat. And so they end up on the ground, and on the ground, what's on the ground? What's on the ground are dogs and cats, basically. And so people scoop them up, even though the parents are right there. I would do something, scoop them up and take them to Liberty Wildlife. And Liberty Wildlife has foster parents. They raise them and then they release them. They get here. As far as songbirds go, it's the Gila woodpecker, the northern mockingbird, which makes sense, and the western kingbird, which I was really surprised about, which is that yellow and gray bird there. But it must come up in flux like a lot because it's not here 100% of the time. So it must be a migratory bird that somehow they end up taking a lot of them in a short period of time. The Gila woodpecker, they probably raise as many Gila woodpeckers as that are out in the wild because of tree trimmers. And the northern mockingbird, because it's so prevalent, and the babies, when they get out of the nest, they're not really good flyers. So they leave the nest and they have to spend at least 24 hours, maybe a little over 24 hours before they figure out how to get up. And so that's when they usually get scooped up and taken to Liberty Wildlife because, it's not safe. There's cats and other things on the ground. So that gives you an idea about what's actually out in our urban areas. So I wanted to talk about places we can go. Come on, quick. Oops, I'm sorry. How do I go back? There we go. Places to go. So I tried to pick places that, to give you some places that were close, some places that were free, some places that were literally indoors, so air conditioning because it's July. But there's the Gilbert Water Ranch. And it opens at 5:30 in the morning. And no matter whether you go at 5:30 in the morning or if you go at 6:30 at night, you're going to see something you never saw before. It happens to me every single time. It's right there in the corner of Guadalupe and Greenfield. Where the library is, there's a large south.
It's really
Yeah.
cool because you
Yeah.
can open the library into it.
Yeah.
Opens up.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it's there from the road.
No, you wouldn't. When you go to that intersection, you just see the library. But
Southeast corner.
yeah, but behind it is, that's where it is.
And it's where again?
The intersection of Guadalupe Road and Greenfield. Thank you. Southeast corner, yes. Yeah, it's the Southeast Regional Library. It's a county library. It's a huge library. Yeah, it's where my daughter is. Yeah.
Your daughter works there?
Yes.
Oh, I work in the bookstore. I volunteer there.
Oh,
The little bookstore when you walk
yeah,
in?
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. She loves it there. So there's Gilbert Water Ranch. There's Tempe Town Lake. There's Chandler Paseo Trail. Salt River. Hey, as far as I know, it's still flowing. There's lots of bird life, and they have a bird preserve actually. That's up at the very top of the Salt River. I think you might have to get a permit to go in there, but you can walk around down around the Salt River. There's plenty of parking, and it's cool. Put your feet in the water. It's pretty clean. There's a lot of volunteers that work really hard to keep it clean. So the Chandler Nature Center. So I gave you the address of that one. So that's like the Veterans Oasis. But the Chandler Nature Center, it's closed right now. It opens the first part of August. And it has, you can go in there. There's a gift shop. And they've got like reptiles and other things that you can learn about that area. It's pretty cool. So I didn't know this, but the Arizona Falls. So we have a waterfall in the middle of Phoenix that is where the rivers come together, and the rivers come together, and then they divide it up, and they send them on their way to wherever they want to send the water to. But it's a nice, I don't want to say it's a riparian area, but there are riparian type birds there. And it's even walking, so it's paved, so it's inviting. There's seat and there's shade. So, and I didn't know that. I want to go.
Is that where the bats are too?
The bats are up in Wickenburg.
There's bats at 40th Street and Camelback.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of near there, yeah.
And there's bats at the Salt River because they built a bridge with conducive to attracting bats. So there's a bridge. There's a bridge right there. If I told you the kayak landing, you wouldn't get it, which is what's in my head. But anyway, there's a bridge there that bats can come in and out. So you can go down to the Salt River. I think it's second to the last. I'm thinking.
It's okay.
Second to the last parking lot before you turn left away from the river. It's that bridge right there. There's two, and then the one before that, there's two of them.
Picnic area right there.
Yes, yeah. And the bats go in and out that way. So the Rio Salado Audubon Center, that's in Phoenix, but it's really nice birding area. It's along the Salt River down there. They're closed until August again, but really nice paved trails and things like that. They used to have burrowing owls. I don't know if they still do. You can take your dog. That might be why they don't have burrowing owls anymore, if they don't. Boyce Thompson Arboretum is a really nice place to go, especially in the heat. And cemeteries. I cannot tell you. I don't get over it, okay? It's going to happen to all of us. But if you want to go and have some peace and really enjoy bird life, cemeteries are great. As a matter of fact, when I go visit someplace, like I went to visit my brother in Houston wasn't last year, it was the year before. He goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to the zoo and I want to go to a cemetery. An older one. Find me an older one, because if I'm not seeing birds, I want to see interesting headstones, right? I went to, I'm going to Kansas, or trying to go to Kansas in September. I want to go to a zoo. I want to find a cemetery. Where else did I go to a cemetery? I go to Flagstaff to visit. There's a cemetery I'd love to go to up there. It's an older one. It's next to the Reardon house up there. I mean, it's great history for that area, but it's quiet because who wants to go to a cemetery, right? Only weirdos go to cemeteries. Well, I'll admit I'm a bird nerd that loves cemeteries. It's great birding. Every month I go to the national Veterans Cemetery, the National Cemetery up in Cave Creek. I'm there every month, and I go do a bird walk with my son. And here I have a list.
Have you been to the one up on Shea Boulevard?
No,
Shea, okay, well, I live there, I'm going tomorrow morning.
yeah, it's a
I love that idea.
yeah.
You see more avoiders there than.
Well, I have my list from the last time I was there. So, house finch, northern mockingbird, verdin, white-crowned sparrow, yellow-rumped warbler, cactus wren, gila woodpecker, lesser goldfinch, northern rough-winged swallow, northern cardinal, and the vermilion flycatcher. They were all there. And the cactus wren. I forgot that off my list. And the cactus wren. And 2 hummingbirds. But they were both black-chinned hummingbirds. So I don't know. It's a mix.
Yeah.
So I would think avoiders would be there because I have seen roadrunners there. I would put roadrunners in the avoider list. But the swallows, yeah, I've seen them at the zoo too. So it's a great place to bird. They usually have nice places to sit. Usually the places you sit are in the shade, and it's quiet. So, yeah, that's a good place to read, write, bird watch. All right. So what can we do to help birds and ourselves? Here we go. All right, Science is going to read this to you because I thought this was really cool. So in the Swiss cities of Bern and Basel, plenty of people skip the tram and float home from work instead.
I read that.
They seal their clothes and laptops in waterproof bags, slip into rivers so clean they are safe to swim in, and let the current carry them right through the city center. They climb out near home, dry off, and get on with their day.
I want to do that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I thought that was cool. See, that's what we need to thrive for, or in some ways. I think we can do it. I think if communities get together, if people get together, we can definitely do that. Don't know if we can float down a river, but get it cleaner.
Oh, I can't remember right now which city it is, but any reconstruction or new construction, they have to put the bird-friendly blocks in to have holes that the birds can, certain sizes of birds can nest in.
So it's starting smaller. It's not in large, but it's starting smaller, locally. So you can protect our green and blue spaces that we already have. Expand our green and blue spaces. Plant native vegetation. That's one of the reasons we're seeing a lot more adapters move in, is because we are changing what we're putting in our yards. Reduced pesticide use. Okay. I don't understand why we want to poison where we live. I just don't get it. But I would just recommend that we reduce our pesticide and herbicide use. Create green corridors, install bird-friendly features, and that is like protecting windows from birds hitting them. Provide artificial nesting. Well, we do that with when you buy the nesting material and things like that. Manage light and noise pollution. Well, I don't have outdoor lights on. I mean, I have them, but I don't turn them on. Our house is dark. We might be the only dark house on the street, but I know that my birds are happier. I don't have window collisions from migrating birds, and they're eating moths because I have more moths. I have more insects there. I finally have gotten my husband to turn the volume down on the radio when he's outside doing yard work. So I'm working on the noise pollution. Support urban greening and air quality. So, and engage in communities, which is what we're doing. Starting at just talking to people, just talking to your neighbor and, asking them, oh my gosh. our neighbors, we have new neighbors, and they decided that they wanted to they tore their grass out and they didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh my God, they tore their grass out. They took their trees down. So anyway, I was having a little bit of a fit, and they wanted to put rock in. And I talked them into not putting rock in. So instead they put plastic grass. So I don't know if I won that. But at least we had the conversation. Okay. And the plastic grass is in the front yard, and there's a small patch of real grass in the backyard. Just because the more of that stuff, the hotter it is. And if you were in my backyard versus my front yard, or even in my backyard versus any other's backyard, because I've got grass and I have plants, and I have trees that are huge and they're old, it's 10 degrees cooler. And I'm not kidding. It is cooler. And all the birds, that's where they are. So I can't support the whole neighborhood. Someone's got to help me. But I'm working on it.
There was an article in the paper this past week about birds in Ukraine using drone cables to make nests.
Birds are amazing. So that leads me to, to this right here. So birds have wings to propel themselves away from humans if need be. And they are linked to dinosaurs, so that only proves their ability and their willingness to change and their ability to do so. Adding their engaging personalities, flexible behaviors, and short generation times, those all help birds to succeed in even the toughest parts of our human-dominated world. That's from Cornell Labs. And this is what I have to say. We are capable of applying what we know to our own living spaces, parks, and other green spaces to make the adjustments necessary to support the bird life that is present now and build towards greater future diversity. So we got it, guys. So that's it. That's all I have. I have my resources here. I read 2 books. I'm not a real fast reader, but I got them up there. That's where I got my information. So I got the other book right here. The Welcome to Suburbia was a library book. I had to return it, otherwise I would have brought that. But this is the other book I read. She's a really good author. She wrote The Crow Planet, which if anyone likes corvids, it's a good book.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So I got, I managed not to switch George Washington in the top. So my husband decided this week of all weeks that he wanted to watch the American Revolution, the Ken Burns one. So that's 2 hours a day. It's 6 hours, it's 2 hours, 6 episodes, and it's 2 hours an episode. So I was having trouble this morning sorting out the talk from the American Revolution. There we go.
Thank you. Wonderful lecture.
Yes.
Very good.
Any other questions?
What happened to all the Inca dogs?
I think they go in and out.
They're all in my yard.
Are they?
Which